I would definitely say it's a very eclectic score, pulling from a lot of different influences. People have, I guess, been describing the film as sort of a neo-noir, and that might be an appropriate way to describe the score as well. It's very dark and strange, but also has sort of these thriller-like elements. And then it has some of the more sort of like almost Zimmer-esque sort of contemporary kind of stylings here and there. So it's kind of pulling from a lot of different domains. So David and I worked together on It Follows, and we had a really good experience working on that project. It was challenging, it was fun, so I think David was interested in working together on this film and, you know, seeing what I could do in a sort of a different direction. I read the script, and the script called for certain pieces of music that needed to be written before production. And so very early on I started working on music. The first thing I worked on was Turning Teeth, which is this pop song, the song for Jesus and the Brides of Dracula, that is throughout the film used in a lot of different contexts. And it's kind of a central plot element. And so David had this idea to work with a contemporary rock group to write a song. And so that's where we started. David had some lyrical ideas. I kind of took those ideas and fleshed them out and wrote a song around it. And then we went into the studio and recorded with a rock group. On this project, you know, I had moved to LA, so I was in and around Silver Lake while I was working on the film. And so that's, you know, that's where David and Julio were cutting the movie. And so, you know, I'd actually go to the edit bay periodically and hang out with those guys and talk about the music. At some point in the process, David, you know, and Julio were like, you know, go watch some of these old movies just to help you acclimate to sort of the atmosphere that we're pulling from. And so I went and watched Citizen Kane, and I watched Vertigo, Taxi Driver, Blue Velvet, just to get a better sense of the mood that they were trying to evoke. Oh, it's pretty weird. Oh, I know that. What I really admire about David is that he understands my drive and what I'm interested in as an artist, and he knows that I'm always trying to seek out novelty in my projects and do something new. So to have a collaborator who trusts me enough to say, oh, I want you to write an orchestral score with a full ensemble, even though you've never done that before, and I trust you complicitly, I think is amazing. And while that's true, we knew that I was going to need some help to do that, and David had worked with Kyle on The Myth of the American Sleepover, and he's extremely knowledgeable, has worked on many, many films, and super nice guy, very, very resourceful. And so that turned out to be a really great collaboration. I just focused on the sounds and the writing and just getting sort of like the general impression of the music. Getting it like, you know, 90% there, and then handing it over to Kyle and his team of orchestrators who could take my ideas and just make sure that, you know, they work with actual human beings who can actually play them and it will sound good. Seeing my music performed by so many musicians at once, it was like being a kid at Disneyland for the first time. But we have 12 hours to record, you know, 75, 80 minutes of music. So we have to work really fast. If we get a take of a cue that we like, there's always pressure to just say yes and move on. Having never written for an orchestra before, it was very exciting to just have all these new ideas about writing for different instruments that I hadn't really written for before. Woodwinds, I would say, in general, was probably my primary focus. And then also brass, muted brass, and just kind of playing with those sounds. And certainly there were like times where, there were things in the score where it's like, okay, I want the trombone section to each play with a different mute. And they would like call in from the stage, you're like, are you sure you want us to do that? Because it's gonna sound weird. And I was like, yeah, do it. And it sounded really cool and strange. There are a couple of extended sequences. There were some that came together relatively quickly, like this section that I was calling The Beat, which is essentially from the time that Sam breaks into Sarah's apartment to the time that he gets to the hotel. This theme of him following the thread. But there were some cues that were really difficult for us. It took a lot of versions to get it right, and one of them is Beware the Dog Killer, which is when Sam is following the woman to the movie auditions. So that whole sequence was inspired by Fellini, which is something that I didn't have a lot of familiarity with before, but just sort of like comedic sort of style, something that's kind of different than a lot of the rest of the film. And so it took some work to kind of find out how to marry that sequence musically to the rest of the movie.
Well, there's no getting out now, so I may as well make the best of it.
It was the most challenging project I've ever worked on. It almost killed me. It took over a year of probably about 12 hours a day when you add it up. And so if I didn't have that help, I don't even think I could have done the score. It would have been too much work. And I think it was just because we set out to do something new and very different from anything that I had done before. So the learning curve was quite steep. But looking back at it, I certainly remember all of the stress and everything, but I feel very positive about how everything turned out.
Take care.